Hi, and welcome to Ask Yvette. And ladies, here today we actually have a question. What is my feminine part of me not allowing me to get pregnant? Hi everyone, Yvette Rose here, and welcome. I'm so excited for today's topic. So, guys, just for those of you who don't know me, my name is Yvette Rose. I'm also the founder of Metaphysical Anatomy Technique, which is also a big book that has 600 to 79 medical elements and the psychosomatic stress of that for adults as well. And of course, we have one for kids too that we just recently launched. I also have the free weekly master classes that you can register at YvetteRose.com. And then we also have the Intuitive Body Workshop, which is a workshop where you can learn how to read the body like a book. And then also we have the Intuitive Body Spirit Guide workshop where you can learn how to connect with your guides, meet them, how to heal with them, how to find your own little healing modality as well as how to read animals and heal animals. Then last but not least, we also have the MAT level 1 healing technique, which is also where I teach you how to release trauma and how to shift that effectively in your life. And that research is based on this big book that I have also written. So let's dive into infertility. So or at least the possibility of that. So we're going to also be looking at what is it about women's femininity that can block infertility if there's no medical diagnosis explaining as to why a person cannot conceive. So we'll be looking at these aspects as well. So first of all, what I want to be addressing here is the diagnosis of infertility actually just means that you haven't been able to get pregnant after a year of trying. And if you are a woman over 35, it means that you also might not have been able to get pregnant after 6 months of trying. Now, the good news is for those of you who don't know, but I'm actually 38 and I have a wonderful 19-month-old daughter. So I just got pregnant by accident and I was on the pill as well when I was 36. So all these things actually still are possible. But I'll dive into that a little bit later when the time comes. So when we here also now look at women who are also able to conceive, but for example, they don't carry the pregnancy to term, that can also then be diagnosed with as infertility. Now, a woman who's also never been able to get pregnant will be diagnosed with primary infertility. Now, a woman who's, for example, now also had at least one successful pregnancy in the past will be diagnosed with secondary infertility. Now, infertility isn't just a woman's problem. It's not just a female problem. Men can be infertile too. Now, the fact that men and women are equally likely to have fertility problems. Now, issues around infertility for women can be associated now with, let's say, ovulation disorders. And this can also be caused, for example, by polycystic ovary syndrome, PCOS, or also due to hormonal imbalances. Now, if this, for example, and I'll just briefly explain the psychosomatics for each point, just in case that might be you, or, there's something that you might have been challenged by as well. Polycystic ovary syndrome means that there's a part of you that's been too much in your masculine, and this also connects and relates to a mother figure that might have been very controlling or very masculine, or feeling that you had to be very masculine in relationship to her, to push away, to get breathing space, to have your own sense of boundaries as well, and also trying to be too masculine in the presence of men, because maybe there's a part of you that doesn't feel respected or respectable when you are being feminine or as a female in the male presence. So this is some things to also be looking at as well. So if it's due to hormonal imbalances, then this can also speak of a deep, tremendous fear of losing control in your life. And normally how this would come forward is actually end up losing control. And that is through perhaps anger, irritation, short temper. There's a lot of, and this normally comes from a place of having too much emotional fire. There's too much fire that's been building up within you because of a lot of emotional stress. It could be abuse, it could be trauma, it can be, a tremendous amount of responsibilities that you might have had in your life as well. And everything is just building up and no boundaries are being expressed. You only express your boundaries when you've hit your threshold. That is normally when you are now in damage control mode, which means that you're pissed off, you're really angry, you've had enough, and you're really upset. And yes, you might be the peacekeeper, but even peacekeepers can have their absolute breakdowns. So when we also now look at pelvic inflammatory disease as well, this can, for example, now mean that the feminine foundational aspect of floor, figurative speech, floor that you were raised on, meaning the platform that you were raised upon from mom or from female figures, that platform might have been very emotionally inflamed. I say emotionally inflamed because there could have been a lot of hot cold dynamics, maybe a lot of hostility, not necessarily directly, but could be indirectly. Mom might have been very busy, very stressed, very emotionally unavailable. Maybe there was a lot of stress with dad. A lot of reasons can be behind that, but feminine support has been very hot and cold and also very unreliable. So that's normally what we would be looking at for PID. Now, endometriosis speaks of very, very strong ancestral trauma in relationship to sexual abuse. And even sexual encounters in your life with a partner, like normal healthy encounters, can actually trigger this ancestral memory, and this can create this reaction, the psychosomatic reaction of endometriosis. Of course, if endometriosis is not caused by something else, if this is the main cause, then this would normally be the psychosomatic pattern behind that. Now, a lot of this is just one of many reasons as to why infertility can be a problem. But when we now look at secondary infertility, and that is now, once again, difficulty when you, for example, cannot get a successful pregnancy. And often also people can be quite surprised by that, because once the first pregnancy was perfect, but now the second one keeps failing. Now, there are also two, as I explained, the two types. There's the primary, and then we have the secondary. Now, if we just park all those ideas and those concepts, I want to dive into the psychosomatics of this, because the psychosomatics that I'm about to explain now would, for example, now be more relevant if you don't have a medical reason as to why you cannot conceive. And that includes your partner's sperm being healthy as well. So you both are actually fertile, but you actually cannot conceive. And there's no medical causes behind this. So I've seen many, many cases of this in my career as well. And what I've come to learn from my clients is that and this is now from the perspective for women, it could be that there is trauma with men. There's unresolved trauma with the masculine. So this could be, maybe you had a very stressful relationship with your father. He might have been very abusive, or your dad was probably the most beautiful, most amazing dad, and you've never been able to find a partner who was like him. And there's a part of you that's subconsciously holding on to the idea of, I will only have a child with a man who could be as amazing and gentle or as loving as my father. So the body can actually have that biological block. Now, what can also happen is that there can be financial stress. If there is financial stress in your life, let me tell you, your body is going to react. Your body will actually feel that financial stress in the energetic language of deprivation. And that means the body's going to go, no, we can't conceive. We can't have a child. We don't have the resources to look after a child. That is how financial stress translates in the body as well. So if that is an issue, then it's important that emotional trauma and stress associated with financial stress is resolved, and that a proper budget plan is worked out so that you can feel a sense of safety and security, knowing that if that child comes, I can handle it, I can financially take care of it, and have different scenarios of things that could potentially go wrong, and then have your backup plans in place for that as well. The more backup plans we actually have in line, even though it's for things that might not actually happen, you'll be surprised how much the body calms down, how much less stress the subconscious body feels. That low level stress, and you can't put your finger on it, that's the stress I'm talking about. Now, also what can happen here, something really interesting, is that there can actually be cultural differences between you and your partner. What that means is it can be that your ancestors had conflict with one another, and that is now being recognized through the biology. It feels that conflict. And there's very less like chances that these cells are going to merge, because there's unresolved karmic stress still connected there. And yes, I have seen this with couples. There can also be a subconscious religious clash. You might not have a religious problem, but your ancestors might have had. So there can be a conflict in values that can now also come forward. Another aspect that I've seen with this come forward really strong is also unresolved trauma with your mother. Unresolved trauma with your mother. What does that mean? If there's trauma and stress with a mother figure, it actually affects, it has a deep, deep effect and direct influence on our fertility. The more healthier our relationship with our mother is, the more the body is going to feel fertile. Because if there's stress with a mother figure, whether you realize it or not, this is the language of the biology, right? There's a difference. The frontal cortex and the biology have two different languages and two different ways of observing and experiencing life in itself. And now what is happening here is that the biology of the body is feeling this conflict with the alpha female. right? If we really go look at it from a primal perspective, there's conflict with the alpha female. And when you even look at the animal kingdom, a lot of females are not allowed to conceive without the approval of the alpha female. So if there's unresolved trauma between you and your mom, if your relationship is strained and stressed, this can heavily play on your subconscious mind as well, especially if it is still a wound for you. A lot of women can conceive and they have issues with their mom and they can move forward because they're just completely disconnected. Now, a lot of people are not that way. So there can still be a sensitivity, there can still be a emotional wound there in relationship to that feels very unresolved. Now, another point, of course, can be too much alcohol, it can be poor diet, but one of the main causes that I've noticed is women who are too masculine. Women are too masculine. That means they're always in the fight response. They're always working too much. They're always, there's too much cortisol pumping through your body. It is the most unhealthiest environment for a child to be conceived in, is a body that is pumped with cortisol. It's like poison. It is toxic. It is inflammatory. It is just not the most loving, kind, and peaceful foundation for a conception to be successful. Now, on the other hand, also, sometimes we think that we really desperately we want to have a child, but there's subconscious fears that is still deep within. And this normally relates to feeling of self-worth, feeling unworthy of it. The other one that a lot of people don't want to admit is fear of losing their freedom. And yes, you do. I'm a mom. I noticed that. But there's really wonderful, beautiful ways that you can work around that. If you can create healthy structure in your life, which I have, it is an absolute joy because there's time allocated for everything and there's balance within everything. So guys, there you have it. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And until next time, be the light that you are. Thank you guys for joining me here. And also remember to subscribe to our math membership website. You can check out so much more. There's so many free healing courses there as well. Go to YvetteRose.com, see all the free master classes and events that we have coming up. There's always something happening on our platform. And we love to hear from you for the Ask Yvette episodes, also for the psychosomatic patterns that you would love for us to talk about, especially when it comes to these books, the research that's in it. And there's so much to be learned and so much to be shared as well. So I love your questions. Let us know what's on your mind. Let us know what you would love me to address as well. Life challenges, it's endless. Guys, thank you so much for being here with me today. And remember to subscribe so that you can stay up to date with the latest and greatest videos that's coming out just for you. Until next time, be the light that you are.